Broadcasting live from the Capital OTB studios, this is Racing Across America with Seth Merrow.
We'd like to thank Gulfstream Park for their sponsorship of this program and some of the other programming and events here at Capital OTB. Gulfstream Park's championship meet features great racing now through Florida Derby weekend at the end of March. Good morning and welcome to Racing Across America on this Saturday morning. I am Seth Merrow. Thanks for joining us. Should be a fun morning here. A little bit later on, we will be joined live by our friend Skip Dickstein. He's bringing an Eclipse up to the capital Saratoga region. Next Thursday, he'll go down and accept an Eclipse for photography. He had a great shot at Jockey Club up at Saratoga. Irad Ortiz is kind of balancing between two horses, and that wound up getting the photography Eclipse. Skip, certainly a regular up at Saratoga, but over the years, many of the big events. We'll talk about all of that with Skip a little bit later on and celebrate his getting the award this year for the photography Eclipse. Before that, though, we will have on tape our friend Joe Kristufek. In just a moment, we will look at, we taped him yesterday, because today's a busy day down at the fairgrounds. 6 stakes at the fairgrounds, highlighted obviously by the Lecomte for the 3-year-old boys, Silver Bullet Day for the 3-year-old girls. But as I said to Joe, stakes on typically stakes days down there, stakes in many of the divisions. So should be a fun afternoon at the fairgrounds today, and we'll talk about that in a moment with Joe Kristufek. As I say, we taped that yesterday. Just before we pop out to the Kristufek interview, do want to remind you that today here at the Clubhouse Racebook Match Bet promotion. So if you'd like to come down, enjoy your racing down here, you can watch the other sports on our sports screens, grab a little lunch at Black Bear, but also maybe a little extra fun with the Match Bet promotion. That's this afternoon, Clubhouse Racebook, 711 Central Avenue in Albany. All right, let's get to it. Again, we taped this yesterday, had a nice conversation looking at all the stakes that are going to be run this afternoon down at the fairgrounds with our friend Joe Kristufek. That's up next. Joined now by our friend Joe Kristufek. A big day of racing down at fairgrounds on Saturday. We're actually taping on Friday, but a big day coming up at the fairgrounds, as is typical of the nice stakes days down at the fairgrounds, covering multiple divisions. It should be a fun afternoon. And Joe Kristufek covering, the pre-games and the pre-race commentary as well. So who better to talk to? Joe, good morning.
Yeah, good morning, Seth. 1 year ago, it was a washout. I think we had to take the races off the turf.
Oh.
It was a little bit of a disastrous Lecomte day, but Mother Nature is being very kind to us. We're going to have fast and firm conditions and a great 13-race card, the 6 stakes. Fantastic undercard races, and the Lecomte's the finale, and it came up deep, and looks like it's going to be a fantastic betting race.
Yeah, no, I think the whole card is a lot of fun. We're going to dive into. Was last year the crazy day you had the snow down there, or was that another day?
No, that was another day. It was a little bit later in the winter, and it wasn't wrapped around one of our big weekends, luckily for us, but they had 10 inches of snow here. I believe it was on a Tuesday, Seth, and nobody knew what to do about it. And then by Friday, everything was melted, and we were back racing. What happens when...
I remember Kenny McPeak had tweeted out some pictures of snow, and it was like, snow in New Orleans? What? Yeah, everybody was totally like scratching their heads down there.
Now, Kenny McPeak walked over to Lafitte's. He was doing videos on his phone, and I think he bought a couple rounds for the bar. And even though it was snowing here, there were some bars in the French Quarter that were still open. It was a real novelty here. People enjoyed it. It was here and gone in just a couple of days, though.
But tomorrow sounds like a very nice day weather-wise. We always like to hear that because there are some turf stakes as well. Before we get to the stakes, I just pulled up the stats, trainers and jockeys last night from Equibase. And again, these are going into the Friday card. But no surprise on the jockey side. Jose Ortiz, his move down to the fairgrounds in the winter, obviously, proved to be very fruitful and continues to do so again this season. He's sitting atop with 31. Pedrosa second. Paco Lopez down at the fairgrounds. He's in third. Over on the trainer side, Joe Sharp, nice meet. He has 18 wins. Brett Calhoun tied with Brad Cox at 12, as well as Shane Wilson, the guy who kind of hit my radar with his season down there 2 years ago down at the fairgrounds, but he's doing very well. Cherie DeVoe having a nice season. Steve Asmussen, Brendan Walsh. I will say on the trainer side of things, Jose Ortiz has been a nice addition on the jockey side, but the trainer side, you have a really strong colony down there this year.
Yeah, we do. And Shane Wilson, obviously, the Louisiana bred's more of his forte, but this is just a great place. And you mentioned in the open set, we've got one big event basically every month with a jam-packed card with lots of stakes and important 3-year-old racing on that progression from the Gun Runner to the Lecomte to the Risen Star, which might be the most important of all the races, and then culminating with the Louisiana Derby. So you've got Steve and you got Brendan, you got Brad. Cherie's having a tremendous meet. She's unleashed a lot of really good young horses. We'll talk about a couple of those when we get to the Lecomte, and she's going to have the favorite, looks like, in the Silver Bullet Day too. So that's the barn that I think utilized this meet as good, if not better, than anybody.
Yeah, no question. And yeah, we will talk about those Cherie horses that were eye-popping a few weeks ago to the point where I had to tweet it out that day. We'll hit on those a little bit later, though. All right, let's kick off the stakes action. We'll start in race 7 on Saturday. 6 stakes, and as I say, covering multiple divisions with really nice fields. But the Kenner kicks things off, scheduled for 5.5 on the grass. I put Hearted on top, and I pulled up a replay of the race on December 21st. Usually Wrong, who is also in the mix, is going to be the winner in here, the number 1 horse. But Hearted runs second, and again, after the DQ, those positions flip-flop. They're both in here. And on Saturday, I have Hearted on top. In between those two, Usually Wrong in the third spot, I thought Wendelson was a little bit interesting too, coming off the win in the Thanksgiving stake in the latest. How did you see the Kenner?
Yeah, you and I flip-flopped, so I did go with Usually Wrong. I found it interesting. I thought Hard-Headed would be an odds-on favorite off those consecutive wins at Churchill. Usually Wrong took a lot of early money. I'm like, wow, what's up with this? Then the horse ran to it, was disqualified, but I thought, Seth, and I think you guys are taking a look at the stretch run, I thought he was much the best. So even though he interfered with Hard-Headed, that horse has to turn the tables on Usually Wrong. Hopefully Usually Wrong can keep a straight path, but talking about a horse that's 7 for 10 lifetime that still has some upside moving forward. It's a good race, though. You got Bear River, grade 2 winner, sprinting on the turf. Petkoff, who's never been better. You mentioned Wendelson on the rail. A few different ways you can go, but I was really impressed with the stride that I saw from Usually Wrong in that race on December 21st, and maybe he'll make amends for being disqualified that particular day.
Yeah, as you say, he wound up winning by over 2 lengths. So, he was clearly very good. And I say it all the time. Sometimes we get too clever. Me, in this case, and I do it often. You try to switch up a result from the last time, and they wind up running exactly the same. And so I may kick myself afterwards, no question about it. I'm glad you mentioned Bear River. Had the nice triple-digit buyer at Kentucky Downs back at the end of August. That one's is interesting as well. Fun race. And I will say, when the turf sprints started to become big in America, I was not a fan. Now I am. And these turf sprint stakes, I think, are a lot of fun, no matter the venue. But you guys have a nice series down there, certainly, including the Kenner. All right, let's move on to the Marie Krantz Memorial, 1 1/16 on the grass. You and I were talking before we went on the air. This does kick off an all stakes pick 5. People love the pick 5 action. I think this will be very popular, being that it is all stakes action. So in this Krantz, for me, I have it 6, 5, 7, and 8. I put number 6, Sweet Treasure, on top. And I went a couple of races back to pull up a replay. The win at Churchill at the end of October, Sweet Treasure is going to be the number 10 horse. Subsequent to that, finished 3rd in the Pebbles up at Aqueduct, but a Brad Cox trainee and Irad Ortiz scheduled to be in town for the ride. Maduro, I think, was interesting coming in from the West Coast for Peter Urton. Strikingly spun. The aforementioned Joe Sharp, who's having a very good meet. So that's the way I'm looking at it. But how did you see the Krantz?
Yeah, I mean, it's tough to go against Sweet Treasure. That win 2 back at Churchill was impressive. I thought the horse fought very hard in the Pebble. Last time kind of stumbled at the start and was rallying inside of the leader, and I thought was game to the wire that particular day. You get Irad, certainly a good fit on.
All right, apologies. It looks like we had the raw footage there of the interview yesterday, and there's another video that has the replays and whatnot dropped in. So we're going to take just a quick break here. We're going to load up the video, the modified video with the replays and whatnot. We'll pick it up right where we left off there, but you'll be able to see the replay. So again, just a quick break. We'll be back in just a moment. Stay tuned.
On basically any horse, that would assume that Brad is putting this horse in a position to succeed. Maduro's last race is a toss-out. It was a grade 1 at Del Mar, was ranked early, was checked hard into the first turn, rallied late, but you really can't tell on the running line. Those finished 6 got beat, 3 3/4 lengths, but the pace was slow. Seth. 23 at 348 flat. They came home in 35 and 3, and this horse was closing strong, but just couldn't dent the margin that particular day. And the winner was an 8-5 Chad Brown winner in Tegesta, who's a nice horse in her own right. So I thought this horse had a little bit of a class edge. Should be storming home late, and gave the edge to Maduro for Urton and Jose Ortiz.
Yeah, and again, as you say, 23, 48, and 112, and to come home, like, it's just tough to make up ground if you have that running style where you're in the back. But down at the fairgrounds, the big long stretch as well should be beneficial. All right, 10th race, and we do get a chance to talk about and look at White Smoke. And this one, and again, a little bit later, Golden Tempo. On the day down at the fairgrounds, I tweeted at the end of the day, Cherie DeVoe has a couple of monsters. And White Smoke, back on December 20th, sitting in the back of the pack and just powers home. Off of that, I was so high on this horse that day, I had to tilt in that direction. So I put that one on top of the Tropa, big maiden breaker in her own right, and then comes back to just miss in the Goldenrod. She's going to be very interesting. Also for Cherie DeVoe, Michael Stidham has Love Your Neighbor, who I think is interesting off the near miss in the stake down at Fairgrounds. We had Hit Parade in the latest Pashmina, interesting for Rob Atras. Your thoughts on the Silver Bullet Day?
Yeah, I'm curious to see what White Smoke does around 2 turns. Because you talk about those pedigrees, and you also talk about the fact that Cherie's so good stretching out sprint to route. This is essential quality out of a Curlin mare. And that was an incredible close after spotting the field. You know, she's got a Tropa who's kind of sort of figuring out how to use her talent. She spooked near the finish line in that 10-length victory at Keeneland. And then last time out, she just got going too late. She switched leads a little bit late. She finished very strongly. No disgrace in losing to Bella Ballerina, who will be one of the likely favorites in the Rachel Alexander for Brendan Walsh. This horse is extremely well bred, a half to a Kentucky Oaks winner for Brendan that campaigned here at Fairgrounds. And then you got Love Your Neighbor. Axel Concepcion lost the irons at the 8th pole. He lost his left iron and was riding sideways in this battle. Horse and rider were both game, almost won that race. Believe Hit Parade, who won that race, is going to go to Oakland for Brad Cox. He is high on her. So some interesting storylines here, to say the least. Taken by the wind. Dominant winner of the Pocahontas at a price for Ken McPeak, seemingly training well in recent weeks. A lot of different ways you can go. Top to bottom, this race is ungraded, but certainly looks more like a graded stakes to me.
Yeah, and I'm glad you mentioned that about Concepcion and Love Your Neighbor, because if you watch the head-on of that, it was an odd-looking situation, and I think a lot of people didn't realize immediately what it was. But yeah, he was just trying to ride with one iron, so you have to be kind of tilted to keep your balance there. He did a great job just missing, and so that's certainly a trip note worth taking into account.
Yeah, no doubt. And that horse really seems to have improved with the 2 turns and, likes to fight. I think that's important. Talent's a big thing, but heart's a big thing as well. So if that horse gets in a battle, she's going to give it all she's got.
All right, race number 11, the Colonel Bradley, mile and a 16th on the grass. I pulled up a replay. I have Cameo Performance on top. I have Laganos in the second spot. But I pulled up a replay of I'd Rather Be Blessed, because it was a nice win last time in the Diliberto down at the fairgrounds. And so I think you have to take that into account. Already a stakes winner this season over the surface. So we're looking at number 8, I'd Rather Be Blessed, getting it done. But as I say, Cameo Performance for Brendan Walsh. Irad Ortiz on board, coming in from a synthetic try at Turfway, but has good turf form underneath. Laganos for Steve Asmussen with Jose Ortiz on board off a 3rd in the River City. Those 2 are interesting. Gigante, I probably would have moved Gigante up, but I was a little concerned about the post position. I may kick myself that I left Reagan's Wit out. This is a fun race. What did you see in the Bradley?
Yeah, it's interesting. You mentioned I'd Rather Be Blessed, who won the Grade 2 Mervyn Munis at the end of the meet last year at 86-1. Yet he's in an ungraded Diliberto beginning of this meet, and they still let him go off at 17-1. That was an overlay, to say the least. I think he's got a chance to repeat here. I think Capuna, who was second behind him, had the tougher of the 2 trips that particular day set. So I think he could turn the tables. But I think Laganos is the class of the field. He was 3rd behind Wolfie's Dynagos, who ran that field off their feet in the River City at Churchill. That horse, Wolfie's Dynagos, came back and won another stake at Gulfstream in his next start. Laganos didn't have the greatest trips that day. I think he's got a little bit of a class edge. He's been very competitive in grade ones, grade twos, earned $1.7 million, decent post from post position number 4. So I just thought with the class edge, he was the one to beat.
Yeah, 7-2 on the morning line. Capuna's the favorite on the morning line at 3-1. I'm glad you mentioned that one because another one I left out of my mix. I may regret it. Going off for Jay Provenzano's Flying P, Norm Cassie training. He, as I say, I'm kind of regretting or may regret that I left Reagan's Wit out, Capuna, but it's a fun race. The Colonel Bradley race number 11. Leading into race number 12, the Louisiana for the handicap division, going 8.5 furlongs, grade $375,000 up for grabs. I pulled up a replay here of Just a Touch, who I think is a classy runner for Brad Cox that may be better than the overall record looks. Hasn't been seen, however, since the Monmouth Cup in July. So this is a comebacker. But I pulled up a race going back to last year, March at Fairgrounds. This is a big win at the Fairgrounds off a layoff last year from July until March. So seems to be able to handle the layoff okay. So I put Just a Touch on top. It's Sir Grayland with the triple-digit buyer performance last time, running second in the Tenacious. Accelerize, I think, is an up-and-comer for Todd Pletcher. Moonlight is interesting. What did you see in the Louisiana?
They mentioned Just a Touch off the bench. That was a 1X, but he earned a huge number that day and was visually impressive in that victory. He was entered in scratch from the Tenacious. They never really seriously intended on running him. They were pointing for this race all along for his 2026 debut. He's squarely the one to beat. But I think the number 1 Moonlight has never been better. He looked really good when he won the 1-turn mile race at Churchill last out. And it's not like he's an elongated sprint specialist. He did win going a mile and a 16th at Churchill 3-back. Had trouble in the Fayette, the 9-furlong race. Smashed in between. He's got a dominant win at Fairgrounds on his resume coming back. What was it, last March, here, March 26th off the turf. Rail draw, should have some speed to run out with Willie Dees and a couple of others likely to go forward. And as the likely second or third choice, I just thought it would offer a little bit of value. 9-2 in the morning line, Just a Touch of the odds on. And like I said, I don't think Moonlight has ever been better. So went in his direction for this one.
Yeah, and I don't have a big argument going against Just a Touch a little bit because I think you're right, a short price. And if you get too short of a price, because there is a layoff to be concerned about, which, as I say, he has overcome in the past, so that's a bonus. But still, you get too short of a price. So if folks wanted to shop around, I would have no argument there. I'm going to be interested to see what Accelerize does because, you know, this horse has been training over at Pletcher's Palm Beach Downs base. But on these big days, is normally the case, you get trainers shipping to stakes races like this or some of the undercard races, which are always a lot of fun as well. I'll help you to pay attention to those. But Accelerize is interesting to me. And Flavien Prat in for the day. He's going to be on board.
Yeah, let me ask you a question because this horse saw work on XBTV, worked with a horse by the name of Life and Times. It was a perfect 2 for 2. I believe both of those wins came in New York and was pretty soundly defeated in that workout. But I think Life and Times might be really, really good. So not sure how much you can read into that, but I'm guessing you're familiar with Life and Times.
Yeah.
Did not stack up favorably with that horse, and needs to prove himself against a tougher competition. But nice to have a horse like this here. Todd always runs, horses at fairgrounds this time of year to get ready for the bigger races coming up in February and March.
Yeah, and it adds a lot of fun, as I say, to the card and the undercard as well, when these guys ship in some nice newly turned 3-year-olds as well to watch going forward if they get nice performances on the undercard. But speaking of 3-year-olds, we wind up the card on Saturday. Lucky race number 13, the Lecomte Grade 3 event. $250,000 up for grabs. 8.5 furlongs is the trip. And again, I couldn't stay away from the Cherie DeVoe runner from the big day. We watched the Philly side of things earlier. We watched the replay. I pulled up the replay of Golden Tempo, who likewise was way in back and made an incredible late run to get it done. Number 3 is Golden Tempo. So I landed there because, again, I was so impressed with both of those Cherie DeVoe runners that day, overcoming just tough trips. But again, like the earlier one, the question mark will be stretching out to 2 turns. So I have Golden Tempo on top, but Thunderbuck coming out of a win to break the maiden win stretch to 2 turns for Brad Cox. Chip Honcho obviously going to take a lot of action out of the win in the gun runner, but the outside post position is no bonus for that one. Crown the Buckeye ran a close-up third that day behind Chip Honcho. That one's interesting. Stop the Car if you're looking for a little bit of an alternative from Brendan Walsh, but that one stuck outside as well. Nice full field in here. Again, they're relatively lightly raced with some blue sky potential ahead for a lot of these. How did you see the Lecomte?
Yes, so I'll start first by saying I'm against the gun runner. I thought that was a stagger fest in the last 1/8 of a mile. And I've got a Cherie DeVoe coin. Golden Tempo is heads and Mesquite is tails, and I flipped it and it landed on tails. I can't split the two of them. Now, Mesquite was entered in the gun runner and he had to be scratched. I believe it was a Lasix issue. I think he got Lasix when he wasn't supposed to. I know Cherie was very upset about it and, wanted to run that horse badly that particular day. But this horse at least has a 2-turn win, overcame adversity to get that 2-turn win. Golden Tempo hesitated at the start, wasn't pinched back, wasn't bumped, didn't stumble, kind of did it on his own accord. So I'm a little bit concerned with this horse getting out of the gate. And then he's never been 2 turns before, but he certainly is bred for it. And Cherie is so good sprint to route. And Jose Ortiz, who rode Mesquite last time, and Golden Tempo lands here, but yet you get Pratt on Mesquite. So I was going back and forth. That's why I came up with the coin analogy, because I like Cherie in this race. I just don't know which one I like better.
Yeah, I looked at Mesquite. I didn't know what to do. And I will say Flavian Pratt jumping on board attracted some attention for me. And as you know, I was in the same boat. I was looking at both of these and who do I put in the mix? And the fact that this one has a 2-turn race and a very good 2-turn race probably should have pulled me to at least putting that one in the mix. But again, it's a nice competitive field in the Lecomte, just what you hope for. And so it's a great way to wind up the day and to wind up that all-stakes pick 5. Really good-looking card tomorrow, and I'm glad to hear we'll have some nice weather as well. Joe, before we let you go, always like to catch up your Brilliant Racing partnership. I know in the past we've had a number of folks in our local area that have been involved, and so what's up with Brilliant Racing?
Yeah, we're running out of horses, Seth. We just got 2 left for Brilliant 5, our 5th partnership. Spider Woman was 5th in a recent allowance race at Turfway. She's going to run back there. Dual Guru just doesn't seem like he has any interest in racing anymore, so we're dropping him in class. We've tried to enter him. The race hasn't go the last couple of days, but hopefully a drop in class will get his confidence back up. And it's a matter of time before we start Brilliant 6, just trying to figure out what the parameters are going to be for that. But we've had a lot of fun, over the last 5 groups that we've done. We've won a lot of races along the way. We've had some really nice horses along the way. And, ownership is a journey. Every single thing that could have happened in an ownership group has happened to us, good, bad, and somewhere in between. So I'd like to get those young prospects, maybe claim an upper price horse like we did with Johnny's Fireball too, and kind of put a little nice package together for our members in Brilliant Six, and hopefully an announcement on that coming up in the next few weeks. Always appreciate you asking.
No, and again, it's been fun to follow the horses, and it's been fun to talk to you about them because, as you say, ownership is kind of a journey. And I think to have a guy like you involved in these and kind of explain situations, like with Dual Guru, to say, we're shopping around and we're getting races that don't fill. I think folks who sit on the sidelines a lot of times and just play the horses don't realize what goes into getting a horse to a race a lot of times. And so to have a partnership like this and a guy like you involved helps explain some of those things as the ownership path is one that you have to have some patience on.
That's a great point. And, you look at my racehorse, some of these other groups, those are clubs. Those aren't real ownership. This is real ownership. But we have a low price point to get involved. No expenses for the first year. We usually buy upwards of 3, maybe even 4 horses, depending on how much money we raise. But I think being involved in this, Seth, helps me do my job better because you do get a real feel for, well, why is this horse in this race? Well, sometimes it isn't exactly the race you want. Sometimes the timing is right. Your horse is ready to run, but the race you're looking for isn't in the book, and so on and so forth. Or having to shift to Horseshoe Indianapolis or go to a different venue to find the right race or the right company to put your horse in position to succeed. So the journey's a lot of fun. I enjoy it from the sale all the way up and through the horse training and finally getting into the starting gate. And winning a race is certainly super satisfying. And, there's really no feeling like it.
Website, brillianthorseracing.com. I'm assuming people can follow that if they want more info.
Yeah. It's got the bios on all of our previous horses and has information on our previous partnerships and how they've been structured. We're going to do a similar structure for the next one, probably making a few tweaks here and there. But, always excited to get that rolling. And like I said, hopefully we'll make some sort of announcement in the next few weeks.
Very good. And always fun. You've had some horses run up at Saratoga as well. It's fun to root for folks, and you hope to get them over the finish line regardless of the venue. So we're rooting for you going forward as well. And it's been a lot of fun to root for the Brilliant Racing horses so far. Joe, appreciate the visit as always. Good luck to you and everybody tomorrow on the big day at the fairgrounds. Really great stakes action, including that all stakes pick 5. Once again, I commend you guys. You do a good job. At Churchill, I say your pregame is one of the better ones. You added some nice innovations with some of the best plays and the long shot and the horse you're against. And those have all been great additions. You kind of continue that down at the fairgrounds as well. So again, hats off to you and everybody down at the fairgrounds. We'll be watching tomorrow and we'll talk again.
Yeah, man, it's hard to believe the fairgrounds meet's almost halfway over, and Kentucky Derby, points races, 20 points to the winner, and the Lecomte on Saturday. The races keep getting more and more important. First Saturday in May isn't that far away. I appreciate it, Seth.
Before you go, you reminded me there's a future pool. You have any future pool ideas? I always say my one idea, I haven't pulled out any horses yet. I'll do that. I will wait for the Lecomte and give out some thoughts on Sunday maybe. But I always say, you got to look for one that's at least 20-1 because they still have to make it into the gate.
Yeah, you need at least 20-1. And I did like Sovereignty at that price last year in those early pools. So that was a good discovery. I haven't looked at it real close. I mean, I think you need to look for horses that have the pedigree, have the connections, and are still maybe maidens or allowance horses that haven't broken through in stakes yet, that aren't quite the household names. That's where you're going to find your value.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. All right, Joe, appreciate it. Good luck.
All right, cheers. Thanks.
Joe Kristufek from the fairgrounds. Again, big day of racing on Saturday. Looking forward to it. Stay tuned.
The championship season is on at Gulfstream Park with great horse racing action Thursday through Sunday. Come out and enjoy the world's best horses, trainers, and jockeys as they compete over the Hallandale Beach Oval all season long. Take your experience up a notch and join us in 10 Palms Restaurant with unbeatable track views, outstanding dining, and convenient wagering options. For reservations, event schedules, tickets, and more, head to GulfstreamPark.com.
Think horse racing is too complicated? Think again.
And
They're off.
Every pro was a newbie once. Meet DRF Newbie, the mobile tool loaded with daily racing form data and the power of DRF AI. Get the insights you need fast so you can play smarter and feel more confident. DRF Newbie, horse racing made simple. Try it free today. Visit newbie.drf.com.
Want to get your career in horse racing off to a fast start? Well, the University of Arizona's Racetrack Industry Program is your winning ticket. The Racetrack Industry Program has served as a springboard to some of the industry's most successful individuals, with a proven track record of job placement right out of college. If you want to earn a degree in the exciting horse racing industry, the Racetrack Industry Program can put you in the winner's circle.
Welcome back to Racing Across America. I talked to right at the end there to Joe about the Kentucky Derby Future Pool. And so I just wanted to bring it up because it opened yesterday. Sorry, I had walked away, so I took the mic off. But I talked to Joe about the Kentucky Derby Future Pool, and I wanted to pull it up and just take a look. Again, wait until the Lecomte is run tomorrow because that will play into some of these odds. But currently, this was kind of interesting. Currently, again, betting opened yesterday, goes to 6 o'clock tomorrow. Ted Naufy is the favorite. Ted Naufy's at 5-1, and I always say one of these individual entrants, you want at least 20-1 because it's not just they have to win the race; they have to get to the race from January. So Ted Naufy looks a little short, but he's favored. All others is 9-1. And at 9, I say 20-1 on an individual entry. You get 9-1 now because you will definitely, the January pool, you'll wind up with a few horses that will have done well to get to the Derby, including potentially the horse I like in the Lecomte, Golden Tempo, is not one of the individual entrants. So, as I say, he wins the Lecomte tomorrow. He could be kind of interesting as one of the all others. But all others at this point, there's still until tomorrow at 6 to have it play out. But right now, all others looks interesting. Some of the others on here, Brant, 22-1. Chip Honcho, who's in the Lecomte, off a win in the Gun Runner. Chip Honcho is currently 69-1. Who else do we have that might be a little? Ewing, 44-1. Further Ado, 22-1. So there are definitely some opportunities. Paladin is 10-1. Paladin's interesting to me, but not a 10-1. Again, I'm looking for about 20-1 or more. But there you go. Don't forget Future Pool, and it will close tomorrow at 6 p.m. All right, we'll take a break. As promised a little bit earlier, we will be joined after we come back by our friend Skip Dickstein, renowned photographer that's going to walk away with an Eclipse on Thursday night, as the Media Eclipse Award winners have already been announced. But he'll go down, pick up his trophy on Thursday down in Florida, and going to have him on this morning, talk a little bit about the winning shot and more right after this. Stay tuned.
Sometimes it pays to go with the flow, to check your worries at the door, to reconnect with your crew, to follow the thrills and the flavor, to roll with it and see where it takes you, to enjoy every minute to its fullest, and to dance like there's no tomorrow. You can do that here at Rivers Casino and Resorts Schenectady, where the good times flow.
Haven't signed up for a Capital OTB account yet? Now's the time to take advantage of the sign-up bonus. Open up a new account with $200 or more, bet $400 by the end of the month, and receive a bonus $200 into your account. Plus, you can take advantage of everything an OTB account has to offer: wagering from any device, live streaming, racing info, past performances, online promotions, and more. Sign up today and take advantage of the new account bonus. Details at capitalotb.com.
Come on.
I want sales reports on my desk by Monday.
Whoops. My bad.
Love racing? RTN brings you every live simulcast on your home television, plus live video streaming and race replays on your PC and mobile devices. To order, visit rtn.tv. RTN, a breed.
Welcome back to Racing Across America. As promised before the break, really happy to be joined by our friend Skip Dickstein, winner of this year's Eclipse, well, last year, but it gets awarded on this coming Thursday, Eclipse Award, Media Award for photography with a very nice shot, and we'll get into that in a little bit. But Skip, good morning and congratulations.
Thanks very much, Seth. It's great hearing from you. I don't normally see you until the race meet, but it's wonderful to see you or talk to you. Or see you on the radio, because definitely I have a face for radio.
Well, we're on TV. We're at Capital OTB TV. So they put a picture of you up when you're talking. So people get to see you a little bit. They get to see me all the time. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, though. But and again, the award, the media awards are already announced. Obviously, the main Eclipse Awards, the horses and whatnot, the envelope will be open this coming Thursday down in Florida, but Media Eclipse Awards were announced. And I have to say, it's a lot of fun. You're a local guy, so the Eclipse Award comes up here to the Albany, Saratoga area, but we're friends. And when it was announced, that Skip's on there. So again, congratulations. Had to be just a lot of fun.
Oh, it is. It's very exciting. This one in particular is very special to me because it's an image that I made without any extra equipment other than a camera and a lens and just being in the moment. The first one I won was on a remote, and it's you're kind of disengaged from the image.
Yeah.
It's the kind of thing where if it happens, it happens. Well, it happened then. That was, I hate to say it, 29 years ago.
I'm curious how clearly you knew before the press release came out, because everybody that won an award, there's some quotes in there. So how did they alert you, and what's that like?
Well, on December 23rd, Jim Gluckson, representing the NTRA, was the first to contact me, and I was sworn to secrecy until the press release came out. And for me to not say something to somebody with my big mouth is so freaking hard. But I kept it as quiet as I could. Of course, I told my wife, and I told my daughter after I ran over a piece of debris in the road and caused thousands of dollars of damage to my car on the way to pick her up shortly after I got the notice. It was like the thrill of victory and agony of defeat all at the same time.
That's amazing because, it was announced, I was just checking the date. It was announced on the 8th, which was a Thursday. So I was kind of imagining you might have gotten a call on Wednesday. That has to be tough to not, you win an award like that, and it's like 3 weeks where you can't say anything.
It was driving me crazy. It was just, I can't tell you. I'm sitting on pins and needles. It was supposed to be announced on the 7th, but there was some delay. And Jim contacted me and said, "Well, keep it quiet one more day, and we're fine." So 1:30 on January 8th, the press release came out, and I'm in the middle of a shoot down at Rockridge Farm down in Hudson, and it became public, and my phone was blowing up while I'm trying to photograph these horses. So I muted the phone and continued on what I was doing, and suddenly I realized that the press release had gone out.
And again, it was great when I read it. I said, Skip one. And for the shot, and we'll take a look at the shot here because it is incredible. It's going back to the Jockey Club, end of August up at Saratoga, right as they came out of the gate. The little bumping, and Irad Ortiz gets knocked off a mind frame, and there he is kind of balancing between mind frame and White Abario. And he came out of this obviously fine, and so that was the good news there. But the capturing the crazy shot, talk a little bit about the process of coming up with this shot.
Well, I try when I shoot horse racing, I try to shoot the starting gate because invariably something could happen at the starting gate. and I, obviously I wouldn't want to miss somebody who'll break through. A horse is, excited about getting into the race, and it happened a couple times during my career where I got a decent shot, but this was totally different. And you could see this whole thing. It was like in slow motion as I watched it develop right in front of me, because the horse came on from the outside gate position and kind of pushed into everybody else. Mind frame was literally knocked off his feet. He was in midair sideways, and that's when Irad got pushed off, unseated from him. Irad went over and grabbed onto Zayas, who was on White Barrio to the left in the image. And at one point, Irad was riding the back of White Barrio. He was on his butt. And in one of the photographs that I saw that ultimately was sent into the competition was that image by Deb Roma. And she did it was an incredible image as well. And then as it proceeded, I didn't take my eye out of the camera until Irad was on the ground and they were rushing to make sure that he was okay. And one thing I might want to add here is that this picture would never have been published if anything serious had happened to either Irad or one of the horses in the race. It was a happy ending. Let's put it that way, or happier.
Yeah, I read that in the press release, and I thought that was, certainly appropriate, and because everybody did come out of it fine. It was, fine in that they were all went back to the barn, went back to the jock's room. Obviously, it was disappointing as far as the race and the bettors, maybe, and that played into, how they handicapped a little bit later in the year. But it really was a fun image, and I remember you coming up in the press box and saying, take a look at this. And, you, a guy who's taken photos of horse races, for years and years, and I, as a person who's followed the game for years and years, and everybody you were showing it to, we were all like, oh, that is incredible.
Well, thank you. I don't really know what else to say, but thank you. And it was that, when there's a phrase that we use when we're looking at the back of the camera, and this is something we can do now that with digital imaging.
Yeah.
And I was coming up in the elevator, and I'm watching this entire sequence. I think I made about 60 frames. At 15 frames a second, this whole thing lasted less than, right around 4 seconds. So it's about 60 frames. And I had to edit out, but this image in particular stood out. And you look at the back of the camera and you go, ooh, and they call that chimping. Because you're kind of acting like a monkey.
Yeah, no, and I can relate, and talk a little bit about that. I wanted to get into that a little bit because you talk about looking at the back of the camera. And as I say, you're up in the press box later showing it. Talk a little bit about the transition. And I will ask, because this is your second Eclipse, so 2 times Eclipse winner. Yeah, that's nice on the resume. But your previous one, 1996 Breeders' Cup Classic at Woodbine. And I'm guessing that was film. Talk a little bit about the difference, dealing with film as opposed to dealing with the digital.
There's a cute little story behind this image. As we were editing the prints, we actually went to a lab in those days and we, printed out everything. And the prints that we would use, we would send to publication. We would send by courier down to Kentucky to the Blood Horse, and they would choose what they want. Well, the particular image that I won the Eclipse for, then I was like, okay, I'm hypercritical of my own work. The thing wound up on the floor of the lab. One of my closest friends in the industry, and one of my closest friends, period, Rick Samuels, who's now based in Lexington, Kentucky, and a brilliant photographer. He picks the image up off the floor and says, "What are you, some kind of fool? You need to send this image." And it wound up on the cover of the Blood Horse.
that showing the serendipity of the whole process. Whenever I get to talk to some of the photographers, and we have a plethora of them up here in the Saratoga area, it's nice and get to talk certainly during the Saratoga meet on the backstretch, and then just talk to you guys live. Talk a little bit about that transition from film to digital, because I can relate. For folks who don't know, I had a video production company for many years, and you would go out with the video camera and you would shoot and you think, oh, I got some great stuff. But then you just keep your fingers crossed until you got back into the office and put the tape in the machine. And, was everything working right? Was the audio there and whatnot? And for you guys on the film side of things, that was much the case back then. Whereas now, as you say, you get done and you can just look at the image on the back of the camera. What was the transition like? Were you skeptical, or from the get-go was, oh, this is going to be great?
No, well, during my career at the Times Union, I embraced, I'm a techie kind of guy. I'm not really nerdy about it because I don't get into it totally, but I'm a techie kind of guy. So when we had the first opportunity to use it was a Kodak. They had produced the first digital cameras on a Nikon basis, Nikon frame, and I embraced it quickly. And I embraced digital photography immediately because I hated working in the wet darkrooms. That's the one thing I couldn't stand, getting my fingers in the chemistry. When I was growing up, my dad used to use surgical gloves to work in the darkroom. And I just couldn't take it. I didn't like the smell. I didn't like, putting my hands in chemistry. And once digital came out and we started to use it at the paper, I was one of the first people to completely switch over my gear. I owned all my camera gear myself. I didn't use any of the pool gear that was offered at the newspaper. So I bought all my own gear. And I started with Nikon's first iteration of the digital camera. And then from there, I guess you could say the rest is history.
And again, you mentioned your dad, and I was going to ask you about your background, and part of that was included in the press release. There was, a little bit of bio information. You went to school down at Lamar University in Texas. Sounds like you then were working for the local newspaper as well. So I guess you go back and you were in photography going back to when you were a kid.
Yeah, my dad owned the Hague Studio in Albany, and my dad and mom are both photographers, and they shot weddings, commercial stuff, portraits. My dad was in the Signal Corps in the Army, and he started doing photography there. He was a phenomenal athlete, but he decided photography was going to be his life business. And then as I was growing up, I'd watch him do all this stuff. We'd go in the darkroom and process film and make big prints and whatever. And he got me going. So, and then of course, I was fascinated with imaging in Life magazine, National Geographic. And I thought, man, that would be such a cool job. Well, I went to college and I became one of the newspaper photographers for the school paper. And ultimately, I graduated, walked out of Lamar in December of '73 or December of '72. Came home. The Troy Record was looking for a group of photographers so they could have a staff. So I went to work there with two other guys, and we became a core staff. And one thing led to another, and here I am, and 50 years later. I worked for the TU for 45 years, and left them in 2018. But I come back as a vendor to do their horse racing stuff at Saratoga, which I'm grateful for.
And we should note that the Eclipse winner was in the Times Union and the Blood Horse.
Yes, it was.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So how long, I would guess when you went to the Troy Record, I was going to ask how long you've been involved with horse racing photography, because you do all kinds of that, but In the summertime, you're up at Saratoga virtually every day, and you go around to a lot of the big horse racing events. As you mentioned, you now do some confirmation for some of the farms before sales. But how long was that part of the Troy record when you first started there? How'd you get involved with the horse racing side?
Actually, no. I was just a general assignment photographer at the record. And when I left there, shortly before, I left there in 73. So shortly before I left there, my first experience in going to Saratoga was Secretariat.
Oh.
And that's in 1973. So that August, which was the four-week meet then, I was up there and I did stuff, the pre-Whitney, when he ran in that, and I covered the Whitney that he lost to Onion. Was my first major race I ever covered.
That's crazy. That Jimmy Jerkins has the great story about that, where he's watching from the backstretch, and from the backstretch you can't see the whole stretch because it's blocked out by the tope board. And he said Onion's leading as they go through the tope board, and he thinks, well, Secretariat will be ahead when they come back into view. But no, Onion was still ahead. And so the Jerkins family was celebrating on the backstretch. But that's crazy that you were there that day. And speaking of Saratoga, I went through my photo collection last night, and I pulled up, I just have a couple of quick shots I have of you kind of at work at Saratoga. In this shot, you're in the blue shirt right in the middle there. As a horse comes back to the winner's circle. This is one of the big days, showing kind of a scrum. You're off to the side there, taking a picture in the winner's circle. And then we have a quick little video of you as well that I think features a kind of a cameo with Erica Miller also with your large camera. But talk a little bit about what's a typical day for you up at Saratoga. Is it planned versus spontaneous? Is there any spontaneity? There has to be. So talk a little bit about a typical day.
Well, usually what I do during the race meet is I'll go over around it depends. And yes, it's spontaneous. If it looks like I check the weather the night before and I try to determine whether I want to get up at 5:30 or 7 o'clock. So if the weather looks like pending some kind of ugliness, that's usually when you get those red skies.
Yeah.
And what I'll do is I'll get up early those mornings and I'll whip over there and I'll just try to shoot some pretty images of what's going on. Then I'll come home after shooting whatever I'm doing. I may take a nap, or I definitely take a shower because at that point I need one. And then I'll go back for the racing in the afternoon. It's an extraordinarily long day, but you know what? The satisfaction, and one thing I really must say, covering the racing is wonderful and lots of color and everything, but going over in the morning is really when I really enjoy horse racing.
That's interesting because I think that's maybe good notes for people who are I think people who have been around long enough have taken in some mornings at Saratoga. You realize that. But for folks who may be newer, put it on your list for this summer. Go over, and the breakfast is great, and they have the tour of the backstretch as well. But as you say, it's a whole different scene. It just, the sun being you would realize this, the sun being in a different part of the sky gives it a whole different feel as well.
Oh, yeah.
I'm curious, were you there? One of my all-time favorite racetrack stories, times, the American Pharoah morning over there.
Oh, yeah. When we had 15,000 people for a public workout.
Yeah.
Oh, my Lord. It was crazy. I positioned myself over in the clubhouse turn so I could show American Pharoah, but in the background, the stands were packed.
Yeah.
It was such a neat image. And you just don't see that stuff anymore.
Yeah.
It was a public workout of 15,000 people.
No, it was
incredible. And you just really got to think about that.
Yeah. I mean, we were on the backstretch doing TV, but before we went on, I walked down the back. They were 3 deep along the rail on the backstretch. As I say, it's one of my best racetrack memories, certainly. So again, you're at Saratoga most days covering the big races and more, obviously. But talk a little bit about the other big events that you've covered over the years? You've been to what, many or most of them?
Horse racing specifically, I've been covering the Triple Crown for about 40 years. This year I will pass on the Preakness because of budget restrictions with the publications that I shoot for. And you have to understand that, and I'll get back to that subject in just a moment, but you have to understand that publications, whether they be print or otherwise, are contracting.
Sure.
And so, I have to go with what the budget gives me. But getting back to that, in the course of my career, I've covered an awful lot of horse racing, including I've covered every Breeders' Cup since the first one so far, which I think is kind of cool.
Yeah, absolutely.
But because I don't know whether I'll make it to 50, but we're going for 43 this year at Keeneland. And so that's kind of a highlight of my career. I've covered, as I said, the Triple Crown about 40 different times. I've covered the Kentucky Derby and the Preakness and the Belmont Stakes. Lots of Travers, lots of Whitneys, on the horse racing side. And then my other life, I've covered two Olympics, one winter, one summer. I did the 96 Olympics in Atlanta for a presenting sponsor, which was really fun because I had incredible access. And then I did the 80 winters at Lake Placid. And at the time, the Times Union was the newspaper of record. So we had absolutely unlimited access to every venue up there. I was driving to the venues where people were having to take the school buses and such to get to places. And it was, you get spoiled doing that when when you're on the inside looking out than the outside looking in. And then I've covered Daytona, the Daytona 500 a couple times, again for a presenting sponsor. And let's see what else. World Track and Field, National Track and Field Championships in California and Oregon. I double trucked an image in Sports Illustrated when I was stringing for SI out there. That was kind of cool. And I actually double trucked Cigar over at Suffolk Downs when he ran over there.
Oh, nice.
So in SI, because I was on assignment for SI on that. The Mascot, that's what it was. It was the Mascot. Yeah. And it was a beautiful day, I remember. And I was scared to death because I was shooting transparency material. And of course, it's tough. It's tough shooting transparency material because you've got to be dead on your exposure or it's gone. And that's another reason why I'm glad I'm not shooting film anymore. I got a lot more latitude with digital.
Yeah, I think that's kind of the consensus, and understandably, because again, immediately did I get something or not, as compared to I got to run back to the dark room, develop, or as you say, there was a day where also you were putting stuff in the mail and sending to whoever hired you, and now it's you pop an email, and so that the photography game has certainly changed. And again, I think everybody kind of feels for the better. But again, you did it on film in '96 and digital this year. But both images deserved winners, including this year's, which again, just phenomenal, that Jockey Club situation. You'll get the award on Thursday night. And I think he said it the other day, gave it out last year. I think our friend Steve Bick will be presenting to the media award winners. Steve. So yeah, go down and have some fun.
Oh, we're going to have a great time. Steve will be down there. Unfortunately, Team's not coming down. No. But my wife is joining. My wife Linda is joining us, and we're going down. And then after after all the ceremonial stuff, I return the tux. I turn into a pumpkin, and then we go visit friends.
Skip, as I said, when I read it, I was smiling, and I knew I had to have you on to talk a little bit about it because being a local guy, the Eclipse comes right back here to our area, and deservedly so this year with a nice job shooting at Saratoga, where it's fun to see you and be part of the action up there every day, and looking forward to it. A little bit longer this year. We'll have a few extra days to enjoy it all, but I'm certainly going to be watching on Thursday night and smiling again. So once again, congratulations.
Oh, by the way, you won't see me because the media thing is done before they go on the air.
Oh, I thought last year they brought everybody up on stage and there were no individual speeches, but maybe it was like a photo that was taken early. Oh, well, all right.
Could be. I don't know, but I was told that we're, no speeches.
Yeah, I knew there were no speeches, but and last year
I did a 20-second. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, I was saying last year it may have just been a photo that was taken earlier. That might have been.
That could be. With digital, it's pretty quick.
Yeah. All right, Skip, got to wrap it up. But again, we appreciate the conversation this morning, and congratulations. We'll talk again.
Okay, Seth. Thanks for calling, and I hope everybody out there enjoys this wonderful weather.
Yeah, really. I say we live vicariously watching those races down in Florida, but you get to live for real down there next week. So enjoy. Skip, appreciate it.
Thanks, Seth. Have a great afternoon.
Skip Dickstein, again, Media Eclipse winner for photography, gets awarded on Thursday night. All right, I'm going to wrap it up here because they got the pregame show going for NYRA. Again, it's, I believe, a 12:10 post today. We'll have that on the network. I'll be back within an hour to kick off OTB Live for this afternoon. Fairgrounds with the big stakes day. Should be a fun afternoon here on the network and via Capital OTB Bet. Don't forget, if you stop here at the Racebook today, match bet promotion for a little extra fun, 711 Central Avenue in Albany. All right, Seth Merrow wrapping it up for Saturday morning. But again, back in an hour or so for OTB Live for a Saturday afternoon. See you then. We'd like to thank Gulfstream Park for their sponsorship of this program and some of the other programming and events here at Capital OTB. Gulfstream Park's championship meet features great racing now through Florida Derby weekend at the end of March.
Watching OTB TV.